Yeah. Go ahead, Brian.
which is how a lot of game studios are remastering and remaking games, and that's making some people upset, and some people are pretty happy with it.
Well, yeah.
And yeah, and
I, I
I
definitely
think
think
I'm
it's
of
case by
like
case.
yeah, it's case by case. I definitely I'm of like different. I'm of a few different opinions on this. Like
Me
on
too.
one hand, especially for remasters, I think remakes are like a whole different beast entirely. But for remasters, we'll start with remasters, I guess.
Yeah,
The
go ahead.
remasters, for me, it's really dependent on can you like does this game need a remaster?
Well,
Like
first, define it for the
yeah,
audience. Define
like a
remaster
remaster
versus
or
remake.
need.
No, well, we can get into the
Yeah,
need as well, but
yeah,
define when you're talking remaster or remake. I feel like a lot of those times in conversation, those words get
yeah.
thrown
There's
around
like a
interchangeably. So let's get
yeah. To
some
me,
definitions
yeah.
here.
To me, a remaster is it's pretty much the same code. It's pretty much the same kind of game. It's just up-res graphically. Maybe they update a few kind of like mechanics or something. Like maybe they'll take out some like something that wasn't um, kind of major. Or
So
like
a
a
Wind
good
Waker
example,
HD.
yeah, Wind Waker HD I consider to be a remaster of a remake, even though it like cuts out a lot of the Triforce quest and
It's
like
still just a
kind of speeds
remaster
things up
though,
with added
because
speed still. Yeah,
the game is
it's not
like
like a
ninety
ground
percent
up.
the same. Yeah, the game's like
Yeah,
ninety
it's
percent the
not.
same.
Yeah, well, as opposed to something like well, obviously the Final Fantasy VII remake, but that's like a different
That's
thing.
a
I don't even know if I consider
humongously
that a
different
remake.
game.
Yeah, I don't
That's
even
the
know if that's
thing.
actually a remake. I don't know what I consider that. That's like a
Yeah,
soft reboot slash remake.
yeah.
Um,
Seriously, that's a like the extreme end of that
yeah,
spectrum.
yeah. I would consider something like um, I'm trying to think of like a good example of like a remake, like what I consider like definitively a remake.
Yeah.
Um, well, this is for no probably nobody else watching this unless they're coming from my channel is gonna know this. But Trails in the Sky, or Falcom
Uh-huh.
is releasing a remake for the first Trails in the Sky game. That is what I
Ah,
consider to be a remake because
here I got
originally
another one.
the game is like an isometric style
Uh-huh.
game. Like you consider like you can think of like Final Fantasy Tactics if you know what that looks
Right,
like,
right.
kind of like that but less pixelated and stuff because it's 2004 on a PSP game. It
Yeah,
was actually a PC game ported to PSP. Anyway, now it's like full 3D models. They're using
yeah,
using the same engine that they use for the current Trails games, and they might be doing something a little bit with like the different like with the newer combat. It looks like, although I think
yeah.
it's still going to be completely turn based, but they're definitely adding in new features because Sky First Chapter was definitely the most basic of that the
Right.
combat the series has ever had. So that is what I consider to be full on remake.
Another
And I
great
definitely think there's
example.
some shades of gray in there. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. There's this Super Famicom RPG that we never got called. It's either Live Alive or Live Alive
Oh
or Live
yeah, yeah,
Alive.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I love
and
that
they
game.
remade it for the Switch. Yeah, I
Yeah,
just bought it pretty recently. Just bought it. It
it's
was probably like six
really
months
good.
ago. But that is a straight up remake because it's a Super
Yeah,
Famicom game that never got localized, and then they did it in like the Octopath Traveler style, and
yeah, the
so
HD2D, and they
yeah,
also added a whole new ending in too.
right. That's a full on remake.
Yeah,
And let's say they took like if they I don't know if they've ever done this, but if they ever did, take like the first two Fallouts because they're like isometric games, right? They're like
yeah,
top
yeah. The
down, and
turn-based
let's say that they
isometric.
made them in the style of Fallout 3, right? Like let's say if
Yeah,
that ever happened, that's a full remake. But just
yeah, that'd
if
be a
they
full
took the
remake.
isometric games and then like upscaled them and just kind of cleaned up the
Like did like
graphics, then
some
it's just a
like
remaster.
AI background
Yeah,
rendering and stuff. Yeah,
that would just
yeah.
be a remaster. So, anyways,
Same, and I think that also gets like a little bit conflated with like ports too, because um,
yeah, and
a good
compilations too.
example, yeah, a good example is another Trails one. But when Trails from Zero and Trails to Azure were brought over to the West for the first time,
Right?
they used what is referred to as the Kai versions because they were originally PSP games that were
Right.
ported to PC. But I think the company that did the PC ports, it wasn't Falcom. I think they went like bankrupt or something. So like the
Ah,
licensing for that was like a little wonky for a while.
right.
And there was also like some issues with the localization for Trails. As Trails is a whole. We can make a whole freaking hour long thing about Trails localization, but like that's how deep it gets. But
That's a video for your channel, my guy.
Yeah.
Because I have no thought in
It's just
the
sitting here
race.
like,
It would just be me going right like 800
yeah.
times. Yeah.
Exactly. Like when they brought that over, the Kai versions, I think you can consider remakes or really remasters because they added in some like stuff from later games. Like they added in characters who legitimately don't show up until like the Cold Steel games, and like
Right.
retroactively in. And there's stuff like that. And it's still like the same game, and obviously they updated certain things. Like they added in the PS Vita versions, which are known as the Evolution versions, had like full voice acting almost. So they added in they like I think they re-voiced some of the lines and they put those in. So I think those could be considered remakes. However, or remasters,
Yeah.
sorry. However, when they ported those over, Falcom only works on like the one like system because they're a smaller company, and then
Right.
they outsource any ports to different companies. And when
Uh,
NIS did localized those games, they had I think it's Durante did like the PC ports and the Switch ports, and those ones are upresed from the
uh-huh.
PS4 versions which Falcom worked on because there's this whole thing of like maybe Falcom didn't want them. I don't know, and I don't know why it happened. Point is, like the PS4 version looks like the PS4 version did in Japan, and then the PC and the Switch versions are like upresed. I wouldn't consider those to be remasters of that because that's just like an upresed port to me. So I definitely
Right.
feel like there's like
Right.
shades of gray in there.
Gosh, yeah. Yeah, there's like it's like port, remaster, remake. Because think
And
about
then
it.
reboots too, but I think everybody
Well,
knows what
reboots
reboots.
are yeah. Like
DMC
I would
Devil
say
May
like
Cry.
yeah, or like even like Pac-Man World is like a reboot to Pac-Man, you
Yeah.
know? So
And then you have like soft reboots too, like the new God of Wars, because they're like it's
right.
technically a reboot, but it's also in the same universe, following the same story. So
Yeah, it's not like with Pac-Man World where we went from a game about collecting dots in a maze to a freaking platformer, you know, and he's got legs and a face now.
where
like, you
Pac-Man
know,
literally kills a guy. It's so weird in that
yeah,
game.
yep,
He
dude, he just
somebody, and you're
murders
like,
somebody
whoa.
in cold blood.
And you're like, oh, and then he starts eating him. You're like, oh my god.
Yep, dude, savage game, honestly. But so
Surprised I
like
get an M rating.
yeah, with like so obviously with my channel with the retro games and my lack of owning a capture card and lack of wanting to buy one,
Yeah.
I rely on compilations all the time and
Yeah.
on recording OBS on compilations. And I know that this young gentleman who I do my podcast with here graciously gifted me the Castlevania collection for my birthday, which was recent, and I thank you very much for that because it is around spooky season now, and I can make some Castlevania content, perhaps.
I did want to get you the trucking one, but I didn't know which one you wanted. So I was like, I'm gonna Castlevania.
Any of them because
Okay.
so my
I was like, should I go to Texas or Arkansas?
Arkansas just came out. My deep dark secret in gaming that the internet doesn't know is that I have over 100 hours on American Truck Simulator.
How is that a dark secret, man? That's peak
Something
gaming,
to brag
man.
about. Yeah, it's peak
Yeah,
gaming,
like-
right?
If you told me you had 1,000 hours in Fortnite, I would have been like, okay.
But 100.
Oh, I'm sorry, 100 hours.
Yeah.
Bring those numbers up. Sorry, you should be
Yeah,
ashamed.
I should bring it up to 1,000, honestly. But I go on stints where I play that game like incessantly for like a couple of weeks, and then I won't play it for a while.
Yeah.
And then it usually happens whenever I go on a road trip. I'll come back
Of
and
course.
I'll want more road tripping, and so I'll be
you
like,
just want a truck.
yeah, I'll just be like, it's time to break out the old truck, I guess. And but that game is so awesome because they support it so well, and that they started off with like 3 states, just like Arizona, Nevada, and California, and they've expanded the what you can buy in the U.S. so much, and you can get like Washington, Oregon, all the way out. Recently, they did Kansas, and I bought that right when it came out. And then they just got to Arkansas. I think I'm only missing Texas and Arkansas because Texas is expensive because it's such a big state, and there's so many cities in Texas too. And it has like decent recreations of all the cities. And obviously, with me living in Arizona, that was very cool to headquarter myself in Arizona explore all those areas and be like, oh, look, that's accurate. You know, like I can actually test the accuracy of this thing. I actually know these cities. And so it was just such a phenomenal game, but I find it very hard to find a place to talk about it on my channel because it's not themed for that kind of game. But yeah, any of those American Truck Simulator DLCs that are on my wish list, you know, if you ever are strapped for another birthday gift, gladly. But I really appreciate the compilation because that's what I use for my channel. That was the whole point of this discussion. That's what I use for my channel primarily. And that or like remasters, like I really want to get the Wild Guns remaster, which I would call that a remaster, not a remake, if we're being tricky about it.
Very pedantic.
Yeah. I would really like to get the Wild Guns remaster because that game is so expensive on Super Nintendo and it always has been. But it's like, awesome, now I can buy this game on Steam and on PS4 to get a physical copy for a fourth of the price of the SNES cartridge and make a video about it. And then just use a digital scan of the original manual and that kind of stuff, and you know, to talk about physical media and preservation and all that. But but compilations are great, but they're not remasters or remakes. It is just the game. You know, it's you're playing the NES game with a PS4 controller.
Yeah, sometimes they do like the Kingdom Hearts ones I would consider to be remasters because they were all HDified, and then they were all brought over. They brought over the final mix versions, which we never got in the West.
And that's a little different
remasters.
Too.
Yeah, I would consider them to be remasters, but also they would also be compilations, obviously, because it's 2 games, and a freaking cutscene movie, and on each disc. But yeah, I do think for
so
me,
what makes them good or
on
bad?
The topic, on the topic of like what, like why when does a remake be considered to be needed, right, or a remaster?
Yeah.
And I feel like my answer is different for both a remaster and a remake. I always feel like remasters are pretty much fine unless you can already play it on the system. Because I feel like the biggest draw for a remaster is to bring over an older game that is not on modern consoles or modern systems onto a new system, onto modern systems, so more people can play it and more people can experience it.
Yeah, like Katamari on the Switch.
Yeah, and it's also a way for them to experience like as close to the original with just up-resing it, so it doesn't look like you're playing a game that was made for a CRT on an HD system.
Well, and that's the other thing too. You get 16:9 instead of 4:3, and you know. But that's the thing too with the ports is that they don't do that. Like the ports of the Mega Man games are still 4:3. You know, you can stretch them, but it looks terrible.
Yeah, and obviously, like sometimes there is some leeway with like some games like don't look as good as their original. Like some remasters, like people say that about Final Fantasy X, which
I've heard that all the time. Yeah,
I'm a little bit of a because I originally played Final Fantasy X through the HD version, so I'm just indifferent to that. I'm like, I think both of them look fine, but there's also ones like it's more like it's not something I'm like I do think the PS2 version looks better, but it's more something I'm just like I'm indifferent to it. I'm just like all right, whatever. But then there's ones like I think it's the Until Dawn remake or remaster that happened recently. People are saying,
oh, that got a remake. I just bought the PS4 version not that long ago.
And then like a big one that people talk about is how like they take off like filters and like color choices in order to make like that are typically like an artistic choice. You know, like you're walking into a town or something, it's like yellow. Everything's all yellow, and then they take that away, and they're like, "We added more colors," and you're like, "It lost its soul, man."
Yeah.
A big one for that for me is Persona 3 Reload.
Did they screw it up? Is that game bad?
It's not bad. I would say it's my favorite game from this year. It might just be the Persona 3 shill in me, but I do think that certain things I do like about it. I do think that FES is just the best version to play.
Neat. That's the one I played.
With that. Yeah, people will just argue with that because you can't control your party members. I think that's good. Anyway,
honestly, dude, it speeds the freaking game up. You know, it's
because the game is built around it. And
that too.
It's like it's interesting. There's so many strategies you can play.
Because you can kind of command them, right? Like you still have like a strategy.
Oh, sorry. The what?
you still have like a strategy, right, where you can like tell them to do certain things.
Yeah, you still have the tactics menu, and
Yeah.
what I love about like it's first off, it's an artistic choice from the developers. People say, "Oh, it was limitations." It wasn't limitations because they made Persona 4 like not even that long after, and they
Well,
you
and
put it
Final
directly towards
Fantasy
the party
One.
members.
How about Final
Yeah,
Fantasy One on the
it
NES?
wasn't limitations.
Like,
The reason it was an artistic choice from the developers. They even said so. They were, I think, like in an interview, they
yeah.
mentioned how they wanted it to feel like they're different people. You couldn't directly
Right.
command them. They had
It's
their
your
own like
friends.
thoughts and
Yeah.
feelings. And that works well with Persona 3 story. With like you're not Mr. Hotshot can do everything. Everybody like
Right.
half the game people are like, man, you suck, until they come
Yeah.
around on you, and it's like, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Anyway,
true.
but Persona 3 Reload for the Dark Hour. I don't know if you remember in
Yeah.
FES there was a slight green tint
Yes.
on
Yes, of
the
course.
Dark Hour, and
Yeah.
then like during the day everything was all bright. You had like the freaking rainbow in the corner and everything, and like
Yeah.
all the light shining through. They kind of took that out
Yes.
for the remake. Everything's a little on the daytime. Everything looks a little like blocky and strange. It's not bad. It's
Mhm.
just it doesn't look right to me. But for the Dark Hour, they made it really green, like
Eh,
super green. Everything
Super
was green in the
green.
Dark Hour,
Yeah.
and the thing that which didn't bother me that much, to be honest, until the final boss. Because in the original FES, the final boss is supposed to be like when you get there, instead of like the green tint, everything is like the moon is no longer green. It's like dark, like black clouds, and the moon's like this pale white, and everything's all like this like different like contrast between like the pale white moon and the light from that, and like just this
Yeah.
like black void of clouds and like feathers and everything, and it looks awesome. And then you
Uh-huh.
get to it in Reload, and it's just the green filter, and
Uh-huh.
that
Right.
one ticked me off a little bit because I'm like, it's not that it's bad, it's just that it lost something, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Well,
feel
you
like
know
some
that they
remasters
just
do that without
slapped on the old
realizing like,
green filter,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I feel like some remasters do that without like realizing like, hey, this is kind of like there was a reason that this looked like this. It wasn't
Yeah.
it wasn't that this just looks different and we should make it look the same because you're in the Dark Hour. It's this is different because you're fighting the final boss. It's a whole different scenario, and it's meant to
Dude,
look like
yeah.
this.
Absolutely. That opening cutscene in Persona 3. Oh man.
Oh,
That thing goes so hard. I just thought about that.
and
I'm
that's
like,
another thing. That is
yeah.
another thing I did not like in Reload is they took out for some reason they reanimated so many of the cutscenes and even added in new
Really?
ones. For some reason, they took out that or they changed that one
When he's walking
to
with the
completely
headphones on?
they changed it now where instead of well, it's still animated, but they changed it. They completely like, changed the whole like cutscene instead of just like reanimating it and stuff. And they made it more like the version in Portable, where because Portable
Oh.
took out the animated cutscenes, they had to
Yeah, yeah.
change the because it was on the PSP. That
Yeah,
was
of
like, that
course,
was
of
technical
course.
limitations, but
There's your
they
real
had to change
technical
it
limitation, yes.
where like people because they couldn't have the character models like for a lot of things, they had to
Right.
narrate what's happening. So like they have a moment where Yukari, like like in that intro cutscene, it's
She's
like
gonna
you
kill
don't know what's
herself.
happening. Yeah, you think this girl's
Yeah.
gonna kill herself. The sync's running. It's like the sharp
Yeah.
sound, and then it
Yeah.
cuts to like the and then like it cuts back to her, and she's like heavy
Yes.
breathing,
Yeah,
and
of
like then she
course.
starts crying as she like drops the what you think is a gun onto the floor, and it cuts
Yeah,
back to
yeah, yeah.
the and then like, you hear, like the screeching of the train that cuts the music off. And
Yeah,
you're like,
it's
oh,
freaking
that's
awesome.
awesome. And in the Reload, they change it to where it's just like she's like, put it against my head, pull the trigger, and you're like they took that from Portable because they had to narrate it because you don't know what's happening.
No,
'Cause it's
that
a visual novel style.
sucks. That sucks
And
because the
it's like
original one is
yeah, it's
so
like the
good with its
mystery.
sound cues. Yeah.
Yeah, and it changed that. It changed they. Do you remember in Persona 5 how for the Protagonist Awakening, Persona Awakening, it was
Yeah.
fully animated.
Yeah, yeah,
In
yeah.
the for everybody else, they did like that 3D game like in model animation, which worked fine.
Yeah. You
But
mean
for the
for
protagonist
Arsene?
one, they kept him. Yeah, for Arsene, they kept him
Yeah.
like they kept it like the 2D animation. It looked
Right.
amazing.
Right.
In Reload, they changed the protagonist's awakening to be that 3D model cutscene.
Ah,
And it was so upsetting because that
yeah.
was one of the coolest. That was the best like protagonist
Oh,
awakening in the series.
oh
Was the
yeah.
one from
When
Persona 3.
he whispers Persona and pulls the gun on
Yeah,
his head.
and you see like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
shattering and like the
yeah,
smoke run
dude.
up as his like
That's
swirl
good.
around him with all the glass as
Yeah,
his eyes are like glowing blue, and you see him like
yeah.
the before that even happens. It's like so paced so well because he like picks up the gun and he's like
Yup.
heavy breathing, shaking, and you see like that you hear like that high pitched screech, and then he like takes a deep breath and everything goes quiet, and then he just whispers Persona and like
Yeah.
does that like shit eating grin, and you're like,
Yep.
oh, that's awesome. And now they're
It's
just
really
like he
good.
just like
Yeah.
picks it up and he's like Persona, and you're like, oh no.
Oh, they
They did that
ruined
for another
it.
cutscene.
Yeah.
They did that for another cutscene later on in the game, and they changed it to 3D animated for
I don't get
some
why
reason.
they would
I don't
acknowledge
know why.
P3P so much. Because, alright, I grant I never played that game, but I just heard it's just like very limited. Like, why are they acknowledging that game
Yeah,
so much?
it's so I'm of two minds of it because like obviously I played FES. That's the one that I like
Yeah.
the most. And I also think that if you want to experience like the truest form of Persona 3, either play the original, which is probably hard to find, or FES,
The
which
OG
is
one's
just
hard to
I think
find?
is the better version. Well, I mean, there's less copies of it. Like it's not
Yeah,
like FES.
FES. You could get
If you get a
FES sealed.
PS3,
You get
yeah, if you get a
FES sealed in
PS3, you
like
can get
2020.
FES.
Yeah.
Yeah, they like made newer versions of it. Plus,
Yeah.
if you have a PS3, you can also just get it on PSN. Um, but
Well, didn't they close the
yeah,
PS3 store?
no, it's not open. They
I
were
thought
going
they.
to, but then there was backlash and they
Ah.
stopped.
I
They were
thought
going
they.
to do it for the
Well,
PS Vita and PS3. They did it for the Xbox 360, the
yeah.
Wii
Did
U,
they
and the
axe it?
3DS.
Did they axe it for the Vita?
No, it's still there.
The Vita still has its store.
Yeah,
No
I'm pretty damn
freaking
sure.
way. No way. That's awesome. And I know the PSP got killed off though. Yeah.
Yeah, the one is gone, but
Yeah.
the yeah, like and portable is on modern consoles already, so like
Right.
and that's
Right.
understandable why people would still play that. And I think a good thing to think about for portable specifically does have the female route, which
Oh, and
means a lot to a lot of people.
the battle theme
Yeah.
rips for her too.
I much
Yeah.
prefer because they do some changes in the female route that I think like kind of alter the story and main story in ways that I personally don't like.
Yeah.
I think it's much better. Like if you want to experience Persona 3, I recommend playing FES, or if you're playing portable, play the male route. Like that's my recommendation. But I know
Yeah.
that the female route means a lot to a lot of people, and I know it
Right.
sucked that it wasn't in the remake for a lot of people because that's how they played it.
They
And
don't have her in Reload?
no, they don't.
Oh.
They basically just
What?
remade FES, and I
But
think like
with-
their
but with-
justification for it is like,
Dude,
well, you
what a
have portable
crappy
modern
remake.
consoles, and it's like to a certain extent, like I understand why they didn't, because then they would have to do like they would have to reanimate like all the cutscenes with the female protagonist. They would also have to do.
Oh, God
like,
forbid
it has,
you have
like,
to
all
put
different
work into a
social links and everything.
PS5 game, you know?
Yeah, they would have to like redo all the because she has like half her social links are completely different. They're like with completely different people, and they would have to like redo a whole bunch of stuff. So I understand why they didn't do it. It's a lot of work, and I also understand that like
Yeah,
I
but
guess
they should do
justification
the
for it is
work.
that portable is on modern consoles. I get it, whatever. I do think that it's like it kind of sucks. Like if that's the
Yeah.
version of Persona 3 you experienced and. It kind of feels like your version of Persona 3 is getting invalidated.
Well,
And
and
that's
can
kinda
you
like what I
hear
feel
that
with, like,
battle theme anywhere? Can you hear her battle theme anywhere?
No.
Man, that
But
sucks. That theme, like,
I mean,
alright.
I still prefer Mass Destruction, but you know,
I was gonna say it's close though. I mean, Mass Destruction is so freaking good, but like it's close.
I mean, the new battle theme is also really good too that they added in.
I think I listened to it
it's going
once or
down now.
twice. But yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, I did listen
but-
to that. Yeah.
yeah,
But Mass Destruction.
Uh,
man.
yeah. Mass Destruction's great, but yeah, it's. I do feel like that is like a big thing. But anyway, circling back to remasters and remakes, right? Because we've got way off topic here.
I mean, we're still talking about a remake, you know, about Persona 3s.
Yeah,
And we just kind of went deep on Persona 3s, which is funny because
Yeah.
I have never beaten FES and I've never played
Yeah, that's why I was
Reload,
trying to be
so-
careful because I was going to talk about one of the other cutscene that they changed, and I'm like, I don't think it got that far.
Nah, I didn't get
and
too
that was
far
like a
in that
major
game.
one.
But I like.
I don't think you because that's like near the end of the game is the cutscene that they changed.
I like that game. I just wish I had time for RPGs still, man. It's just life. But that's why I upload videos about Mega Man and how I'm like, I like this game because it took me 39 minutes and 21 seconds to record all the gameplay for Mega Man 1. You know?
I mean, like that's how I'm like the opposite. Where like if I get into like a long running RPG, that hits for me.
Yeah, I mean,
then, like,
I love getting
if I try to get into like
but...
a shorter game, because I'll be like, oh, I want to play a shorter game. I don't want to play like another super long game after it. And I get like paralyzed almost
Really?
of like not wanting to play like the game. Like I've been trying to play Dragon Quest 2 for like I've been trying to like just start Dragon Quest 2 because I'm trying to get through all the Dragon Quest games. But I've been trying to like go through Dragon Quest 2, and it's only a 20-hour game, like at most.
It's an NES game. Yeah,
and I'm like. I play like shorter sessions than I play like long form RPGs because I haven't been sucked into it, you know?
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, I'm like an NES guy, and you're not, you know? So I'm used to like, Mega Mans and DuckTales and like those games being shorter, and Castlevania is like 6 stages. Like, yeah, it's hard as crap, but like, it's 6 stages, so... But
and it's like, I'm also more into like stories and stuff.
Right. Well, and
that's like a big thing for me.
I don't mind story-driven games. Obviously, I love Chrono Trigger. I love Ace Attorney. But good lord, get your stupid cutscenes out of my Mega Man. that's where I am with that. That's why
I definitely feel like it depends on the game. Because sometimes I've been playing a game, I'm like, this game does not need this.
I'm sorry, bro. Mega Man 8. No cutscenes, please. That game is so stupid with its cutscenes. and hey, look, I love Mega Man X4. That game also has really stupid cutscenes. Like, they're dumb. I mean, that game just plays amazingly, though, and it's really great. But then, like, I've never even played X5 through X8 because it's just like so egregious in those games. Like, Mega Man X4 and even Mega Man 8, it's like, yeah, it has them. They're really cheesy and shitty, but... the X5 through 8s are like brutal with their cutscenes, and I won't even touch them.
Is X4 the one with the "What am I fighting for"?
Of course it is.
That's the only cutscene I know from all of Mega Man.
Well, and then Mega Man 8 has Dr. Light has the Elmer Fudd syndrome where he says, "Well, fine, Dr. Wowie." It's so dumb.
I love the like old school like bad voice acted cutscenes and stuff.
Yeah,
or, like it was okay like cuts, but it's just like the pacing because it was they had to make things so quick back then. The pacing is just off. Like,
and I'll tell you this.
Favorite ones.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
One of my favorite ones is have you ever played Jak and Daxter? Like any
of course.
Okay.
Here comes a big
Do
one.
you remember? Because me and Devin talked about this. Where it's our favorite line in the whole series is like you go through the entirety of Jak and Daxter 1 with Jak as a silent protagonist, and you get to Jak 2, and he's silent for like the first like 5 minutes of the game, and then he just like he gets like broken out of the prison thing, and his first words in the deepest voice possible is, "I'm gonna kill Praxis."
What? Yeah, I've only really played Jak 1.
Buddy, you okay? What?
I've only really played Jak 1, but...
no, that's the only good one, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'll tell you this.
I do not like Jak 2 and 3.
Some people don't like
I love Jak and Daxter 1.
Jak 1 is phenomenal. I love
Jak 1 is like one of the best 3D platformers ever made.
It's really
Jak
really
2
good.
And 3 are infuriating.
Yeah, they just look frustrating. But I've never played them, though. But anyway, the game, my favorite game of all time, Mario Sunshine, has some beyond stupid cutscenes in it. And no, I don't really like them. The only one that I really, really enjoy, because of how stupid it is...
You better watch yourself.
What?
You better... You're on thin ice, because if you don't say it, one of the best cutscenes is when they go, welcome to the beautiful island paradise of Isle Delfino.
Yeah.
His friendship is cut off.
Yeah. It's so, like, cheesy. Like, yeah, they're pretty bad, but...
Mario goes to court? Come on.
Yeah. If you are no doubt aware, someone has been senselessly defacing Fair Isle Delfino. Like, yeah, it's not good. But, no, the funniest cutscene in Mario Sunshine is when you beat Mecha Bowser, and then Bowser Jr. goes, Leave my mama alone, you bad man. I won't let you take Mama Peach away. It's so stupid.
Oh God, I love Sunshine.
Yeah, it's great, and it's cheesy in that way, but you know, I don't know. It's about as dumb as the Mega Man 8 and the X4 cutscenes. I just have a little more nostalgia for it. I'm not here defending it, saying it's good. I'll tell you that.
No,
much.
it is good. Because first off, when that I forget what the Aldefino people are called.
Piantos.
Piantos. When that Pianto drops a Wakakikimuruhuki, that's it's fire.
Yeah,
pure fire. I don't even know what he says.
I hear you. It is funny. But so anyways, yeah, a game that, you know, I brought it up a couple times in our recording session here that I felt like, you know, was like a necessary remaster, and stuff was like Katamari, you know, and it's not a remake by any means. I mean, how the hell are you going to remake Katamari? The game is so freaking strange anyway. It's like
they put like realistic graphics into it.
Yeah, that would be horrible. Like, could you imagine that? Like Katamari remake,
nightmare.
And it's like
sucking up real people,
real
like real
people.
cows.
And if
Can
it's
you
just
imagine
like
the king in like a realistic face
with his bulge,
yeah.
But and they put it in like GTA setting where it's like people in cars and stuff.
Yeah,
you know. So there's no remaking that game, like, by any means, right? And it's like, yeah, just remaster it, just upscale it, and like, you know, for We Love Katamari, they added like the Royal Reverie levels and stuff, and you know, they're great. They're great little remasters. And the thing too is that they're not trying to be something else. They're like, those games retailed for like $20 or $30, like when they were new on PS2, and then same when they were new on Switch. You know, They're not trying to be something different. Whereas, like, I don't follow this drama too much, but to my knowledge, like, hasn't The Last of Us been remastered and fully priced on like 3 generations now, and it's basically the same game?
The Last of Us, you have the PS3 version, which fair, because like, you know,
that's the first one.
Yeah, but like, you can't. So they remastered that for PS4, which is fair, because you can't play PS3 games on PS4 because of that whole thing of like the PS3 emulation being a really hard to deal with or something.
It's like Sega Saturn level of hard. Yeah.
That's why like we haven't gotten MGS4 like Final Fantasy 13 and stuff. But
right.
The so they remastered that for PS4, and that was like pretty like that was the first game I got on the PS4, so that was like early on in the console's life cycle, right?
Yeah.
And then you got The Last of Us Part 2, which, fair, again, PS4. It was a new game. And then on PS5, you have The Last of Us Part 1, which is a remake of The Last of Us using, like, the same engine as Part 2.
Right.
But you could already play the remastered version on PS5.
Yeah, because PS5 is backwards compatible with PS4.
Which, okay, I will give you that if you wanted to play with the mechanics, because The Last of Us plays like Uncharted 3. Right? While The Last of Us Part 2 plays more like Uncharted 4, right? So, it's a different feel. Okay, fine. If you wanted that, that's okay. They're now remastering The Last of Us Part 2 for PS5. There is no excuse for that. They're also doing it for Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yes, yeah.
To make it play and look a little bit more like Forbidden West, which is just like, it's fine. I personally like Zero Dawn more than Forbidden West. Like, yeah, I like the gameplay from Forbidden West more, but Zero Dawn is just, I think, a better game.
You talk about a game that visually blew me away so much when I saw it for the first time, Horizon Zero Dawn. When I saw that game, I was like, oh my god, these visuals are insane.
It still looks great.
Yeah, well, that's the crux right there.
Better.
That's the crux of the argument, is that it still looks great. It still looks great. Yeah. Why are you remastering? It still looks great. You know?
Yeah, and that's like the thing with like the remastered stuff where people are like, okay, like that's where it gets ridiculous. Like to the level of like people complaining about the Atlas re-releases, which is a whole different beast.
What is Atlas re-releasing?
No, like Atlas does like, I mean, before they would do the re-releases, which they haven't done yet, but we'll see. Like they would do like, I think the first one that did it was Nocturne. They did like the Maniacs version, which is the version that we got.
Oh, you mean like Persona 4 Golden and like
like Persona 4 Golden, Persona 3 FES, Persona 5 Royal, and then like SMT had like Strange Journey Redux.
Of course,
the Delta Survivor games had re-releases.
Yeah.
Recently, the most recent one was Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance.
That's right. Yeah.
And then there's like Catherine Full Body and stuff. So like Like that's where I feel like the same kind of there's a Venn diagram overlap here
Yeah,
of like,
seriously.
but like they added content that for I mean most people consider them to be just overall better. I think it goes case by case, like game by game. Like I much prefer the original Persona 5 over Royal. Like I am not a
Yeah.
big fan of Royal. I love the original Persona 5. I feel
Yeah.
like it kind of messed with the story and stuff. But anyway, they at least are different experiences. Like it's not
Right.
just like you pop in Persona 4 Golden and you get the same exact experience that you had with the PS2 version. It's
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
So I feel like there is at least an excuse there, even if it's like okay, like, and I do think like that does get into the thing of like, well, I can just wait for the better version, but I think for me it goes case by case with Atlas re-releases of which one's the better version. But
Right.
regardless, there's like they're not really adding a lot to these remasters, so it's like, is it
Right. And
necessary?
then
But
the
then on the
ballsy
flip
thing
side, you
is
have
charging full price.
yeah, charging full price, and then like on the flip side, you have things like the Dragon Quest III remake. Like
Yeah.
I feel like that's needed. Like of course you can play it on the Switch already,
Yeah, but Dragon Quest 3
which
is
is
an NES
fair.
game. You know, like
Yeah, and
remake it.
you can play it. You can play it on the Switch, but it's still and it's like they improve some things. Like it's not as grindy apparently on the
Yeah.
Switch. I still haven't played the Switch version yet. I plan on doing that before the remake. But
Yeah.
the remake, it looks like they're like adding in a whole bunch of stuff. It looks like a full blown remake, and I still feel like I don't have something in me that's like, oh, like that's not necessary because it looks way different. Even just
Right.
the style. It's an HD 2D remake. It's more pixelated, ironically, than the Switch version, which
Yeah.
is not the
Yeah.
remake because that one's like based off the iOS version.
Right.
But yeah, and I do think another thing to transition to one of our other topics.
Uh-huh.
I do think a good thing with remasters and remakes is it allows you to play games that you don't have to spend like $200.
Well, I brought it up earlier,
Yeah.
kind of inadvertently with Wild Guns.
Yeah, with Wild, yeah.
Yeah, Wild Guns
And-
is a SNES game I've wanted forever, but since it has that old Natsume tag on it, it's worth like $300 on the SNES,
Yeah.
and has been forever. And it's one of the games that slipped under the cracks for me, or slipped through the cracks for me when I was a kid. And when I was a kid, I got games like Chrono Trigger for like 30, $40 or whatever, cheap, right? Compared to what they are now, and Mega Man X3 for like $50, right?
Yeah.
Because I knew that they were SNES games that I wanted. I didn't know about Wild Guns until I think like the Game Grumps played it in 2012. They played it with John, and then I didn't really think about buying it until probably like 2015 or 16, and by then it was like a $200, $300 game, and it was never worth it for me to spend on a game like that. And so then and that games like that blow me away that they get remastered. I'm like, dude, it's Wild Guns. You're telling me this got a remaster? Like, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's so unpopular.
Yeah, and I do think that is like a big reason why people want certain games. Like we talked about it over text, but Xenosaga 3 and Dot Hack
Yeah.
Quarantine are like $300
Yeah.
right now.
Even
And
Simpsons Hit and
you can't-
Run is like up there in price
Yeah.
now, and people are crying for a remaster, and I'm one of
Yeah,
them.
and like
you know,
the issue, like people really want Xenosaga remasters, and I mean, I have them now, so I'm not as into. I'm like not. I mean, I want them for everybody, and I would definitely get them as well.
Yeah.
But now that I have them, now that I spent that $300 goddamn
on
dollars,
Xenosaga 3, yeah.
and Dot Hack, I still want the Dot Hack remakes too, and
Yeah.
the Xenosaga ones, but. Yeah, but that's why people really want those. That's another reason why people, because they're stuck on the PS2. You have to get the other ones. It's not like you can just get Xenosaga 2, right? Like,
Yeah.
you have to get 1 and 3, or you're not getting the full thing.
Of course.
And yeah, like things have gone up, and like I think especially COVID really, because people were like banking on that nostalgia. I think that one.
If you look at price
ruined
charting,
the retro market.
now that we're like several years past COVID, like at least the peak of it, if you look at price charting for any game, it's funny, man. It's like literally any game. NES, all the way up to like, I brought up Wii Sports in our text conversation, and and you see like this like I call it like the COVID bump. So like Snow Bros, right, is like the rarest game that I have probably, or at least the most expensive game that I have. And I think Snow Bros in like 2022 nearly hit like 400 on price charting. It's around like it usually floats around like 275 or 300 now. I think I've seen it go down a little bit even since I acquired it, but it's fine because I didn't pay anything near that for my copy of it. But it's you see this like stabilization in price, and that was so not the case in COVID. And I remember just because people were so bored, it was like, oh man, I'm gonna shell out $80 for a copy of Wii Sports because I'm bored and at home, and I break out the Wii. And Wii Sports is like a $20-$25 game, you know.
Yeah. And one that I wanted to talk about, but before we get into that, real quick, are we? This might show a lot. Like, are we allowed to say COVID now on YouTube, or
Yeah, you can. Yeah. I know
okay.
that was.
I was about to say because if we might get the freaking fact check thing at the bottom of the video.
Yeah, the Wikipedia article that comes up where
I was about to say like if we couldn't just put in a soundbite of that Pianto from Sunshine going wacky googie.
Yeah. For every time we say COVID, I would find that cutscene and get that. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. Of course. Yeah.
The game series that I wanted to mention because that what really bumped up during COVID was Pokemon. Because before COVID, you could go to like a GameStop or like any retro game store and get like a copy of Emerald for like $20 to $30.
Now it's like 200.
It's like 200.
Yeah,
like it's ridiculous.
So
and like the DS ones are even cheaper, and now they're way more expensive.
When I got out of retro gaming, in like 2021, like around the COVID time, like I did the right thing and I sold at like the peak, TBH.
Mm-hmm.
I sold a lot of my stuff from my original collection at the peak, and then. But then after I moved across the country and then I got settled again, I've gotten back into it in the past year, and a lot of the prices are close to what I remember selling things for or less, and I was kind of pleasantly surprised by that, and I was like, oh, that's good. Like this game's about what I remember it going for, like years ago because I sold at the peak, evidently, but. The thing that like blew my brains away was that Emerald was like 180 when I got back into collecting, and I was like, okay, so here's my first rule for my new collection: no Pokemon games. And I just
I unfortunately did not have that rule.
I laid that groundwork down immediately. I sold my copy of Soul Silver and then said I didn't want to be tempted by it. By having like one Pokemon game to be like, I need to build a shrine around this, you know what I mean? And be like, I need to get all these.
Not beat that temptation.
Yeah, that was my ground rule.
Yeah, and what sucks is a lot of people sell the cases and games separately.
Yep.
Which is unfortunate. But I managed to get all of the main series Pokemon games from Red and Blue all the way up to freaking Scarlet and Violet. So
I mean, and I love the series. I love the series, but I'm not. I just said, you know what, man? I used to own all these games. I used to own pretty much at least one from every generation, not necessarily every single one, but I used to have them all. And it's like, all right, I want to get back a lot of games from my childhood, but I just don't think that's going to cut it. But the $10 for Robots on GameCube, you better believe I'm right there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Pokemon is. Pokemon sucks compared to Bratz Racing on the Wii.
Obviously. So that's the thing is I had so many other goals that I could put as a priority. Like, I would still say I'm going for a full set for NES, but obviously I've slowed it way down. But I have like 200 NES games, and I want to get back my Super Nintendo games, and then I wanted to focus a lot on Xbox 360 and the Wii.
Yeah.
And so I had all these other goals, and then when it came to starting a YouTube channel, it's like, okay... it's rather hard to like use capture cards for handheld devices, I believe, so unless I want to start emulating or, you can get like the Super Game Boy and stuff like that, but it's still a challenge, right? And so portable gaming is not necessarily something that I'm too crazy about. I got the SpongeBob Game Boy Advance SP, of course, because how could my gamer not have that? But, it's not something I'm like too... Yeah, I'm not like too crazy about it. My old collection, like I used to have a Virtual Boy, right? I don't need that. Mm-hmm. I'll be honest, I don't need that thing. So, and I feel the same with Pokemon. It's just there were so many other goals and things I wanted to do with my new collection that dedicating that amount of resources to Pokemon would mean I would have like basically only a Pokemon collection. You know?
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, it's like once I got them, I was like, it's not that many. Like there actually aren't that many games. Like compared to like my Trails collection, I was like, it's a small. Because
Yeah,
I just
well,
went for
yeah.
main series. I wasn't like gonna get like Pokemon Pinball on like the Game Boy. You know?
Why not? How about
Because
Pokemon?
I
How about Pokemon Troze on the DS?
I
Do you
don't
even know what that is? Do you even know what
No,
that is? Yeah,
I'm a
game I
fake
had as a
gamer.
kid. It's a game I had as a kid. You're a fake gamer, obviously.
I am a fake
Um,
gamer.
so it's this like slide puzzle game, and I remember the
Oh yeah,
commercial, and
yeah.
it's like they say like Troze like in the commercial, and I just like looked it up the other day, and I was like, oh my god. So
$800.
yeah, fucking
Yeah,
here's $200.
yeah.
So yeah, I
Because we're getting. Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead. I don't have anything
I
to
was gonna
say.
say because we're close. Okay, because we're getting close to an hour mark here. You want
Yeah.
to steer the conversation into FOMO?
Yeah, well, dude, I
Good
used to
FOMO.
experience this really bad, and I still get it kind of. When I see like a good lot on eBay, I'll get it
Mm.
pretty bad sometimes.
Yeah.
That FOMO is how I acquired Snow Bros, so sometimes it does work.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it does. That's how limited run is still in business. Their whole
yeah, well,
business
that's a
structure is
bit
based on
different than
FOMO.
like that's a bit different than eBay FOMO, but yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
The whole like this game is intentionally scarce, and like, dude, oh my god, when Nintendo released the amiibos, I was so glad that I
Yeah.
pre-ordered Marth because I don't know
Same.
if you
Same with
remember that.
Yeah. But same
Yeah.
with the Mario 3D All Stars.
Mm. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
They were like we're gonna discontinue it in about a month in a year, and we're like why?
Did they say that recently?
No. Like they were like we're gonna stop like selling it or something like in like they were gonna whatever. It was like it was intentionally made to like stop making copies at a certain point.
Ugh.
Um,
Nintendo's great at that fake demand crap.
yeah,
Oh,
and
they're
like
really good at
and
that. Yeah.
yeah, the limited run is one that I want to talk about because I only have
Go
two things
ahead.
from
Give me your
limited run,
rant. Give me your rant. Because
and
I've never bought anything from them. Because I
yeah,
always kind of felt like they were a scam. Yeah.
I only bought two things from them, which is the Persona 3 Portable and Persona 4 Golden. Like, well, technically four things. I bought the Switch and PS4 versions, but
Right.
the one of the big reasons why I did that, and this is another topic I want to talk about in the episode, is I love collecting steelbooks.
Oh, do you? Some
And
people really hate them.
yeah, I know that was something I want to talk about because
Yeah.
it's very polarizing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I love collecting steelbooks. So when I saw the Persona 3 Portable steelbook, and it's like
Ooh.
the artwork of the protagonist with like
The
I don't know if you remember
girl.
that like concept art. No, the main like the male one. And
Oh,
he's got like Thanatos like behind him, and it's all like that like ink swirl and stuff.
excellent.
And it
Still.
almost looks like
Yeah.
blue flames and stuff. That like concept art, that's the artwork for the whole steelbook, and I'm like, I gotta get this.
Yeah.
And then I was like, and if I get this, I gotta get the Persona 4 Golden one. Um,
Yeah.
but because I love a good steelbook, and like
Do you have
that
the Assassin's
was a
Creed
big
3
thing. I do not.
I used to
I
have
only
that.
started collecting them.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I only started collecting them. I want to say it was after we graduated college. I only started collecting steelbooks. Is when I realized I really liked them.
Yeah. You know what I
Because
have?
like some of them. Okay.
I got two. I think I only have two in my collection. I have a Halo 2 one, really nice, and then I have one for Black Ops 2 that came with the Hardened Edition. I have always loved the Black Ops 2 Steelbook, but those are like literally the
Yeah.
only two. I'm not like I don't like seek them out like you do.
Yeah, because I love, and that's the only reason I really bought from Limited Run was because they had those steelbooks, and
Yeah,
I mean I probably would have gotten them secondhand like the standard games anyway,
yeah,
just later on to put on the shelf with my other Persona games. But
right,
the main reason I bought directly from uh, Limited Run was because of the steelbooks, and I feel like
right.
them like again playing into that whole thing of FOMO really ticks me off because they can do that. They can still do that in their business model with the
Yep,
versions that have the steelbooks.
Yeah.
Like, because those are just collector's editions, and those are already typically limited. They're limited
Yeah.
editions.
Yeah. Of
Everybody
course. Of
agrees on
course.
that. That's a standard in the industry. So they could still
Yes.
do that. But why they do it, like, with just the standard games ticks me off. Because it's just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Just the regular release and how it's
yeah.
limited. Yeah.
And they try to act like it's for preservation. It's like, it's not. If it was
It's
for
you
preservation,
no.
you'd put it beyond limited. Your company would not be
Yeah.
called Limited Run. Your company would be
So
called It's a Run.
yeah, they have, I think, limited run released it. You can let me know. There's a Castlevania game that is Rondo of Blood, which is the PC Engine version of Dracula X, aka the real version of Dracula X. And then also, I think it's like Rondo of Blood and Symphony of the Night. And I think it's literally just those two games, but arguably the only two Castlevanias you really need to play, other than maybe like 1, 3, and 4. But if you're old school, that's if you're old school Castlevania. I don't
Yeah.
know like anything about like the Game Boy or DS ones, but you know, but
Not even Lords
Rondo
of
and
Shadow.
yeah, no, I don't know anything about that crap. I just know that people hate it, but anyway, like Rondo of Blood and Symphony of the Night are like just exquisite Castlevania games, and I believe that there is a release and the PC Engine copy of Rondo of Blood, to my knowledge, it was extremely expensive, and it probably still is, because it's also a Japanese game that you don't need to read Japanese for, so it's like not that bad to import it. But then everybody did, and so anyway, I think Limited Run released a physical copy of that. I think it's called like Castlevania Requiem or something. I'll look it up right now while we're here.
Yeah, I saw the
We're
case for it. I actually exited out, so I don't remember what it's called. But yeah, I saw it.
Castlevania Requiem. Yeah, PS4. Yeah, that would be it. Symphony of the Night and Rondo of Blood, PlayStation 4. Alright, so like a new copy on eBay is like 65, brand new. But then there's like a limited run, like a variant that has, it looks like Symphony of the Night's cover art, and instead of PlayStation it says limited run. Yeah, it's a variant. I mean, I get it. It looks like it's like a collector's edition. It has like a big box or whatever, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But it's the base game. If you're just releasing like a game with no doohickeys, then like
Yeah.
just do a regular release, man. People are gonna buy. Like, you don't worry about like, oh, if we make too many of them, then it's gonna like bankrupt us or whatever. You can't print enough copies of Symphony of the Night, man. People want that game. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, like especially for like the bigger ones like that, or like I think they did one for No More Heroes.
ooh, did
One of the
they?
No More Heroes games. I think so. I think they did for like No More Heroes 1 or 2 or something.
Wow,
Switch versions.
those games getting a little love. That's nice.
Yeah. They had like a resurgence.
You're talking about some
when No
good
More Heroes 3 came out.
soundtracks, man.
I still need to play them. I have 3 on the Switch. I still need to play
I've never played them,
well,
but I have listened to the soundtracks a lot.
I'm gonna play Bayonetta first, and then I'll play them.
You should also
But-
play, if you have never played, I would recommend you play it on the GameCube, but it is also on PS2, and I think it's a lot cheaper on PS2. This game, Killer 7.
I
Ever
think
heard of
I've
that?
it.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it is, but I definitely heard of the name.
You should definitely play it. I won't spoil anything, but it's very interesting game. And I had it for the GameCube for a while, but I sold it because it was, one of them games that I didn't pay a lot of money for, and then ended up becoming pretty valuable, and so I sold it before I moved. But
That's fair.
good freaking game, though, for sure.
Yeah. So circling back to Steelbooks real quick.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think is important, at least for me, because I like putting games on a shelf, I also like keeping the games consistent. So I do like when companies, when they do a Steelbook release, they give you the case too. Like they give you the normal case.
I was
And
gonna
also give you the
ask.
Steelbook.
I was gonna
I love
ask
when they do
because
that.
a lot of people, and myself included, hate it when you have like regular steelbook, regular.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people hate
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I like at least for the limited run thing, only praise I'm going to give them. They gave you the standard game case and then also the steelbook, and then certain ones like for all the Trails games. Well, not all of them. For most of the Trails games, at least the ones released by NIS, they did they gave you the standard case and the steelbook in their
Yeah.
collector's editions. And I think Metaphor from Atlas is, I think that's going to do the same thing.
Right.
But Atlas typically does I mean, for at least for the launch editions, they just give you the steelbook, which kind of pisses me off because then I have to. The collector in me is like, oh, I gotta buy the standard edition now too.
I think Persona 5, when I got that, I bought I almost called it the Maniacs edition for Christ's sake. But when Persona 5 came out, I got the special edition, whatever it's called, the Joker edition.
The Take Your Heart. Yeah,
That's it. Take Your Heart.
Yeah.
Whatever. Let's call it the Maniacs edition. Now featuring Dante from the Devil May Cry series.
May Cry series. Yeah.
Yeah. So
not to confuse Maniacs Chronicles, which replaces it with Raido Kuzunoha from Devil Summoner Raido Kuzunoha versus the Soulless Army.
See, that's not as cool as
I push
Dante.
up my glasses that I don't have.
Right. It's not.
You say
Dante,
you say that, but in the original version, Raido was better.
I get it.
Because
But I don't know who that is. I don't know who that is, man. I know who.
But Dante didn't
is.
have Pierce. So if you fought Lucifer, you'd be down a demon without Pierce. You would have a free demon with Pierce if you fought Lucifer. They changed that in the HD version. They gave him a new skill that has Pierce. But
I love that game, man. I love Nocturne. Talking about that game.
Oh yeah, that's how you beat that game?
Yes, you did, man. You texted me the day you beat it. You talk about one of my favorite RPGs ever. Nocturne is so good.
I really liked it. There were some frustrating dungeon designs in that one. The assembly
game is notoriously frustrating. Yes,
the assembly of Nihila with the stupid box puzzles.
That dungeon sucks. Yes,
I wanted to that one. All the ones that have you teleporting by crossing the wrong place, the park with the fairies.
Dude, here I got a little something for you, man.
At the screen.
I got a little something for you, man. It's called Game Facts.
No, I know, but at the same time, and I know this is my fault, I had a walkthrough up already.
Yep.
And this is a me thing. I hated that the map wasn't complete. So my brain was like, just go near it, and it's gonna teleport you. Just go near it. See if you can try to complete the map without touching the indicator.
You're fine.
But yeah, and that one, and then the Parliament building or the Diet building or whatever, that one also took me off with the fake hallways and crap.
Yes. I think I was thinking of the Diet building when you were telling me about the other dungeons. But that game has some extremely frustrating stuff. But dude, the battle themes are so good. The demons are good. You got to think. It's an RPG where you actually got to think. You can't just plow through it. A lot of RPGs, it's just you just mash attack, and you're good.
Granted, I will say there were only very few fights where I feel like I really had to think things through, because I feel like the most part physical is so busted in that game.
With the demigod,
the few demons. Well, not just with Demi-Fiend, but with you can, if you my whole, and it might just be because I had a party full of fiends for most of the game, just because they're easy to make. You just, if you're going for the true demon ending, you get so many death stones that just from doing the Labyrinth of Amala, that you're just I can make Daisoju, why not?
Oh, he's good.
So I would just have a party full of fiends, and they're some of the best in the game. So maybe it's just because of that. But for most of the game, especially most of the bosses that weren't resistant to physical, I just plowed through most of them. There were definitely a few where I had to think, especially the Lucifer fight at the end.
Yeah.
The Kagetsuchi fight, I didn't realize. I thought it was scripted for a while, because I was like, man, I really can't survive a second blinding light or whatever it's called. I was like, is it just scripted? Do I have to beat him faster? And then people were like, no, you just gotta debuff him. I was like, oh, okay.
I don't know, man. I just love that game. It's
very good. It's one of those ones where I'm like, I think of it fondly, but I am not rushing to go back and replay that game, because some of those areas.
Well, I'll give you this. I haven't played it since summer of 2019, so it has been a solid 5 years for me. So I'll tell you this. I did not go rushing back to play it either, and I did not even get the True Demon ending. I just finished the game after a while, because I was like, you know what? I think I've played as much as I want to. But anyway, totally off track. The whole point of that was that I got Persona 5's Take Your Heart edition, and I believe it only came with a steelbook.
Yeah, because I didn't get that one. I got the launch edition, but that also was pure. That was just the steelbook. So I'm really happy when companies decide to give you both. I love that.
Yeah, and I think people know that now, and they're listening more than in the Xbox 360 era.
Yeah. I think that they are definitely doing that more, and it's like I also I have a list on my phone of all the steelbooks that I have,
Yeah.
and it's quite a bit.
Very nice.
um, but yeah, like some of these, the thing that I do wanted to mention with the steelbooks is I do feel like older steelbooks were a little better quality. Like they were a little bit like sturdier,
Yeah.
and
My Halo 2 one is like rusty, so I had to give you a little.
that
I'll give you a little
makes
laugh
sense.
for that one. But yeah.
Yeah, but like especially like it really stood out to me with like the Trails ones because when Xseed did they did like a special editions for the PS4, which were like collector's editions, and those are the only
Right.
physical ones that you get. NA, North American
Right.
version for the PS4 were those
Right.
ones.
Right.
So they were like fairly limited, but those ones, some of my favorite steelbooks ever. I think I've shown you the pictures before. It's like the front covers of both
Uh huh.
are this. It's the same picture they used for the soundtrack for Cold Steel 2, where it's like the main character and like the one of the other main characters like kind of like a rival character, and it's
Hmm.
them like kind of staring at each other, and one like the main character's like got like fire all around him, and the rival character's like all water and stuff.
Yeah, that's
And it's
cool.
that image split between the fronts of both steel cases. So Cold Steel 1 has the main character one, and
Hmm.
Cold Steel 2 has like the rival character one.
Oh,
And then when
neat.
you
Yeah.
flip them to the other side, it's the concept art of their respective final dungeons, which is
Very
just
neat.
really cool concept art. I love
Yeah.
that. But then I feel
So
like for the newer ones, they have like the cool image on the front, but then you flip them to the back and it's just a logo. I'm like,
yeah.
oh,
Yeah. It's not as cool, right? But
yeah,
so you're a big fan of how Dot Hack iMock makes the picture of Kite, then?
yeah, like
Yeah.
that stuff. Like
Yeah.
I also love when Steelbooks do like the when you open it up and it's a full image.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah,
I
yeah,
think the
yeah,
Catherine Full Body one does that. The Persona 5 one does that.
yeah. Of
Um,
course.
yeah, I love those ones too.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, it's something that I think is I quite like Steelbooks. I like collecting them.
that's neat.
And I
That,
typically
that's
get
like
them
a
when I can.
little.
Like,
It's like your little
yeah,
niche thing, you know, because it's
yeah,
something that
yeah,
some people do and some people really don't. But you got to have those little like niches inside of your collection, like getting like little variants like that. I think is really, really good
yeah.
for the hobby.
And
So,
I also like the external boxes that some of them come into, like a lot of
like
the
Persona 3, like a
yeah,
Persona
Persona
3 in a
3 is one.
box. Yeah.
Yeah, like the when it had like the art book and the thing in
Yep.
like the game in that box, or
And
like
Star
Square
Ocean.
Enix does it a lot, where they have like the
Star Ocean
external
3
boxes for
had
the
one. Yep.
collectors.
Star
Yeah,
Ocean's a Square game. Yeah. I used to have the
yeah,
external
I
box
like
for
those.
Star Ocean 3. Yeah.
Yeah, those are pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, anyways, we can wrap it up because we're at an hour and
Yeah,
12 minutes. We're at a good time. And we've talked about our, love and hatred for remasters and remakes. It depends on the game.
yeah.
And then also a little bit
I
about
love
some
of
extra
Al
stuff.
Delfino.
Our love for Isle Delfino. I'm down to talk about my love for Isle Delfino any day. Any day. All right. Well, with that, thank you all so much for watching. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to like and subscribe. This is actually the first episode that we're going to be posting on the channel as it's its own channel now. So this used to go up
Yeah,
on mine and yours, and then kind of just mine and now I just said, you know what, let's just make it its own thing. And so this is
yeah,
the first original episode on the channel now. So if you somehow the algorithm pushed this to you, welcome. And if you like what you heard, consider coming back.
yeah.
Anyways, we'll
Wakakee-hoo-hoo-hoo.
We'll see you next time.